Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to learn two different techniques to alter lighting in photo. Now the first technique is a relatively quick technique and we're going to use that for our check for understanding. When you open up the document we provided today, you're going to see that there are two images. We're going to ask that you do this effect on both images separately. So I would recommend hiding the CFU2 while you work on the CFU1 just so you're not distracted by it. And you're going to create this fake sun. It's a very quick technique. All you need is a blank new layer. So we know our new layers button is right down here. We need to change the layer blend mode. That's what makes this work. So let's take it and from normal to screen. And then we're going to create a fake sun using the gradient tool. To change the color of the gradient, you want to go up to the top, click on it, and you can double click on these little boxes. And that's how you choose your sun color. I would recommend using orange and yellow just to have a real illusion of sun. Now I have a yellow to an orange. If I want to add a third color or any other color, I can simply click down on the bottom of the gradient panel. That adds a color. If I get too heavy-handed and click too many times to erase one, I can simply click and drag downward. I want this last one to be the same color, but just clear. To change the transparency, you have to click on the top box here, this little black box. Where it says opacity, you can change that. I'm also going to change this to be radial, like the sun, as opposed to linear. Now with the gradient tool in this program, when you click and drag, it'll make basically a radial gradient. If you don't like the location of where you put it, just undo and draw it in another location. And whatever is out here on the end, it doesn't matter. I can hide the rest with the mask if I want. Okay, once you're done with this, you're going to take a screenshot, provide this to us. That's your first check-in of the day. Then we're going to ask that you do the same technique with this image here. When you're done with your check for understanding, save it as a JPEG because you will provide it to us later in class, and hide your layer. Now for the main activity, you have two images and we're going to do something with rays of sun, so a different technique. This technique takes a little bit more time. To start off with, hide the main activity 2 for now so you can focus on one thing at a time. Then we're going to actually use something we've never used before. It's called select color range. So what this does is it basically selects everything within a certain color in your document. It's not the most clean selection, but for this case, it'll work really well. So I want to hit the button replace, and I just want the light that's coming through the tree. So I'm going to zoom in so I can really make sure I only click on the light. You see that when I do that, in this little menu, it shows me what I've selected. I can hit the plus button if I feel like I didn't get enough of that light and add, but I think I got most of it with that one selection. So once you're happy and you have most of the light behind the trees, you're gonna hit OK. It's basically just making a selection of that. We want that selection to be on its own layer. So we're gonna hit Control or Command J to make a copy. Now what we've essentially done is I'm gonna hide the background. We've just made copies of the light. So it's on its own layer. Now we're gonna use a filter to make this look like rays. Now I will warn you that this filter takes a little while to render. So try not to click too much because it will freeze up your photo piece. So to do this, you're gonna go up to Filter, Blur, Radial Blur. Now there's a few settings I would recommend. Some of them will be up to you. Some of them are just like a non-negotiable. I would recommend the amount be much more intense because right now it's really hard to see. I would also recommend that the mode is not spin. You see how it looks like a circle? We want it to be zoom. It'll pull out rays. Now, the off X and the off value is the X and Y value where the light is coming from. So you can tinker around with it if you feel like it's too high or too low. I actually like where it's coming from right now with the 0.5. So I'm going to leave it as is and I'm going to press OK. Again, if your computer takes a minute or two to load, try not to click too much, give it a second. Now what we want is to make a few copies of this to really intensify the light. So I'm going to hit Control or Command J 1 or 2 more times. See how bright that light is? Now I want to select all 3 of the copies I've made by holding Shift, clicking on all 3 of them. I'm just going to right click and hit Convert to Object. If you have a problem right clicking on your computer, you can just go up to Layer, Smart Object, Convert to Smart Object. Does the same thing as the right click. What that'll do is put it in one layer, basically merges it. Now we want one more copy of this, so I'm gonna hit Control J 1 more time. But for this copy, we're gonna add a different type of blur to it to tone it down a bit. So we're gonna go back up to Filter, we're gonna go back up to Blur, but this time we're gonna hit a Gaussian blur. You can put this in the 7 to 10 radius. If you wanna try something a little more intense, it's just gonna blur it even more. You can press OK. Now this is a little too intense. So now we're just gonna go back and lower the opacity right up here on the layers panel of both our light layers to be around 30 to 40%. It's much less intense and more believable. And now we have this cool effect. I'm gonna hide it to show you the before and the after, okay? It looks like rays of sun are coming through the trees. So that's the first one you're gonna do. When you're done with that, you're gonna do the second one coming through the window of this image so you can see the different uses of it. When you go export this, you can export this image showing both of them as a JPEG. So you should have 2 uploads today for your classwork. Be patient with the radial zoom and really be precise about where you want this light to come from. Good luck.